Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into something brutal, so raw, so cold, so ancient. You'll wonder how anyone survived it, much less thrived. You're about to become a recruit in the Spartan, the most infamous military training system of the ancient world. But let's be real, you probably won't survive this. Picture this bone-dry dust stings your bare ankles as you arrive at the stone gates. There's no one smiling, no warm greetings, just a long, echoing silence and the clink of iron somewhere beyond the walls. You smell olive oil, sweat, and something metallic, probably blood. The air is thick with it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I love knowing how far these stories travel. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The gate creaks shut behind you. You stand there, 1 foot still itching from your sandal strap, staring at a blocky man with a shaved head and eyes like broken pottery. His name doesn't matter. He grunts. That's enough. Another boy stumbles in behind you, no older than 12, no shoes, and already bleeding from a lip. A brief nod, and he's shoved forward. You swallow. You're not even inside yet. You were told the Agog would teach discipline, strength, valor. What they didn't mention, the fact that the training begins the second you set foot inside. Not metaphorically, literally. You hear a voice bark something behind you, maybe a name, maybe an insult. Then you're grabbed. 2 older boys, 16, maybe 17, slam you against the stone wall. One holds your wrists behind your back. The other grabs your hair and yanks your head to the side. You smell the dull metal before you feel the razor edge. They shave your head. Dry. No water. No oil. Just tugging, scraping, and one muttered joke about shearing the sheep. You're the sheep. When they're done, you don't even recognize your shadow. Your scalp stings, your neck itches, and the air feels strange on your skin, like it's noticing you for the first time. Next, your clothes. They don't ask. They strip you. A tunic that your mother sewed, gone. A belt you thought made you look older, gone. You get a single brown cloak, wool, scratchy and still wet from someone else's sweat. No shoes, no underclothes, no dignity. And still, no one speaks. The first historical fact to drop on your head like a sandbag: Spartan boys were conscripted into the Agog by age 7, any older, and you were already behind. You're too late, you're soft, your knees wobble when it's cold. You know the taste of honey? All liabilities. You're herded like cattle into a sun-bleached courtyard. Boys line up, all shaved, all cloaked, some with bruises. One limps. You look at them, and they look through you. A tall man with a crooked nose stands before the line. No weapons, just a staff. He taps it against his foot once. The courtyard stills. This is your life now, he says. You belong to Sparta. You flinch as the staff slams against the stone. That means your pain belongs to Sparta. Your hunger, your sleep, your blood, your silence. The kid next to you shuffles, maybe to scratch a bug bite. Snap. The staff whistles through the air and cracks against his shin. He yelps. The crooked-nosed man doesn't even look. Sparta doesn't tolerate twitching. You stand straighter, breath caught in your throat. The sun starts dipping lower. The shadows grow teeth. One of the trainers explains where you'll sleep: a shared stone barracks, with no bedding except for what you find or steal. Some kids stuff dry grass into their cloaks. Others just curl up and pretend it doesn't matter. You're taken there just before dusk. The walls are bare, the floors colder than the courtyard. There's one small window, just enough for moonlight and a breeze you'll hate by morning. One boy asks about his parents. A thin-lipped instructor answers with a snort and a single word: gone. Not dead, not far. Just gone. You're property of the state now. Biologically, you might belong to a family, but spiritually, that's been burned off with the hair. And the quirky bit Spartan mothers were the ones who handed you over smiling. They weren't tricked. They weren't guilted. They wanted you to become this. In fact, a mother who cried too much when her son was taken might be mocked, or worse, shamed. Spartan culture carved weakness out of its people with pride like trimming a hedge with fire. Night falls hard. There's no dinner, just a small basin of black broth placed in the center of the room. It smells like boiled boot leather and tastes worse. Historians still argue whether the infamous melas zomos, the black soup, was actually made with pig's blood and vinegar, or if that was a dramatic exaggeration from disgusted visitors. Either way it works. You gag and pretend you're full. The boys around you speak in hushed, clipped tones. No one shares names. No one jokes. They sit like statues, just smaller, thinner, and slightly more terrified statues. You curl against the stone wall wool cloak wrapped tight. The cloak doesn't cover your legs, and a scorpion crawls across your bare foot just before sleep. It's not even fear anymore, it's numbness. That dull, invisible pressure in your chest that says you can't turn around. You can't go home. You don't even know how to ask for help here. But sleep does come. Shallow and brittle like a snowflake balanced on hot iron. A second's peace. Then a boot kicks your ribs. You wake up choking on air. And the real training hasn't even started yet. You don't wake up, you're woken. Kicked, dragged, shouted at, take your pick. The sun isn't up yet. The stars are still hanging overhead like lazy gods watching you struggle. You try to stand, but your legs aren't sure they want to be legs today. You trip. No one helps. That's your first real lesson. Someone hisses, move or they'll choose you. You don't know what that means, but you move. Out in the courtyard again, the air bites your skin. It's freezing, even in southern Greece. You can see your breath puff out in sad little clouds. Everyone's still barefoot. The dirt is sharp this morning. Every step cuts like it's got teeth. And then come the fists. The trainer, same crooked-nosed one as yesterday, calls it morning exercises. You might call it ritualized group brawling. Everyone's in a circle. You're in the middle, no weapons, no rules. Just survive for 60 seconds against 3 older boys who are already grinning like this is breakfast. The first one hits your temple. The second grabs your cloak and yanks you down so your chin smacks the dirt. The third just kicks you once in the ribs for fun. You taste dust, blood, and something like shame, but nobody's laughing. The trainers only laugh when someone cries. You didn't cry. So you get to stand back up. Wobbling is allowed. Crying is not. Spartan mornings are brutal. But they're also deliberate. Historians agree the agoge wasn't random cruelty. It was precision cruelty. It was curated, refined. You weren't being punished. You were being sculpted into something unrecognizable. Breakfast, no. Of course not. Your stomach growls like an injured dog. A boy next to you shoots you a glance, not pity, not camaraderie, just awareness. Hunger is a smell here. It tells people you're still new. They hand you a tiny satchel. Inside one chunk of stale bread, an olive pit, not the olive, just the pit, and a thread of dried meat so thin it could floss a mouse. You stare at it. That's lunch. Maybe dinner too. The bread tastes like it was baked during the last dynasty. Make it last, one boy mutters without looking at you. Make what last, you whisper back, and he snorts through his nose like that was funny. Then comes your haircut. Wait, didn't they already do that? Yes. But now it's done again. Not by instructors, by the older boys. Each recruit is assigned a watcher, a senior trainee who mentors you by way of ritual humiliation. Yours is named Theros. He doesn't smile. He trims your scalp with a dull blade while reciting state mottos. One of them is, "Come back with your shield or on it." You ask what that means. He slaps the back of your neck. It means don't ask dumb questions. Quirky side note. Spartans valued silence so highly, they had a word for smart kids who talk too much, dumb clever. Not clever, dumb, clever. It was worse than being weak. You don't want that label. So you nod like you understand and let him finish. The clothes you wore yesterday, what little you had, are gone now. Probably burned. New boys get the oldest cloaks, ones already worn thin. Yours smells like goat and something sour. You're allowed to keep it year-round. That's it. One cloak. Rain, too bad. Snow, use your imagination. There's a fringe theory that young Spartans learn to insulate themselves by stuffing dried reeds inside the seams. But historians still argue whether that's real or just poetic license from a homesick scribe. You're told to say goodbye. To what there's nothing left. No name boys here are identified by number until they prove themselves. No family, you're not supposed to write or receive letters. No comfort blankets, fire socks, even baths are considered luxuries you must unlearn. But you do say goodbye. Quietly. To the version of yourself who thought this would be a cool story. To the boy who thought Spartan training would be push-ups and sword fights. You don't get a sword. Not yet. Probably not for years. Instead, you get chores. Demeaning ones. You clean out the latrine trench with a bent wooden ladle. You carry water from the well a half-mile away. You scrape old grime from the mess hall floor while standing in it barefoot. Every task is paired with yelling. If you drop anything, someone hits you. You try to speak at one point to explain that you slipped. They cut you off mid-word. Talking is weakness. A trainer passes by and points to your hands. Not enough blisters, he says. Fix that by tomorrow. You don't know how. So you just keep working until your palms sting raw. Lunch doesn't come. You eat the crust from your satchel in 2 bites, then instantly regret it. You pretend to chew longer, hoping the other boys don't notice how fast you gave in. They notice. That night after the chores, the cold feels deeper. It gets inside your bones. You wrap your cloak tighter, but it doesn't help. One of the boys throws a pine cone at you and says, "Sleep upside down." The blood in your head keeps you warmer. He's joking. You think. There's a ritual before sleep reciting war poetry. You're supposed to memorize it. It's in Doric Greek and the lines don't make much sense. Something about dying for glory and how real men love pain. You fake the words. A few syllables and someone behind you hits your ear. Hard. You don't fake again. Then just before lights out, a visitor. A grown Spartan soldier walks through the barracks. Not an instructor, an actual warrior. Bronze armor, massive beard, 2 long scars on his forearms like twin snakes. He says nothing. Just walks slowly between the boys, making eye contact. He smells like ash and iron. He stops by you, looks down. His shadow swallows your legs. And then he says the first words you've heard from a soldier today. Don't survive this. Change from it. He walks away. You lie awake for hours, those words digging deeper than the cold. It's not about making it through. It's about letting this place erase you and replace you. You curl tighter. Your stomach growls again, louder this time. Tomorrow you'll learn how to steal food without being caught. Or starve. Either way, you're not the same boy who arrived at the gates. Not anymore. Before your body knows what's happening, the pain starts. It's still dark. It's always dark when they wake you, if you can even call it waking. A swift kick to your ribs jolts you out of the only dream you've had in days, a warm room, a loaf of bread, and someone calling your name like it mattered. You sit up fast. Too fast. Your head spins, and then the fists arrive. No warning, no warm-up. Just a blur of movement and impact as one of the older boys drags you into the center of the courtyard and yells, "Lesson time, lesson." Your nose explodes before you get the answer. This is the Paidonomos' game. He's the drill master assigned to your age group, and this morning he's in a mood. Maybe someone spoke out of turn. Maybe someone didn't scrub their bowl well enough. Or maybe it's just Tuesday. Today's lesson, pain control. You hit the ground fast. No one catches you. Someone lifts you by your cloak, and another boy swings his knuckles into your jaw. You're not even sure who they are. Names are whispered here like contraband. It's not a fight. It's not a punishment. It's just training. Because in Sparta, pain isn't a consequence. It's a classroom. A foot slams into your back. You gasp more from shock than air loss. And all around you, the others watch silent. No one flinches. No one dares to look away. Crying out of the question, screaming. You might as well ask to be branded. You try to block a punch, finally some instinct kicking in, and that earns you applause. But not good applause. The mocking kind, slow and sarcastic. And worse, the Paidonomos smiles. Good reflex, he says, for a kitchen boy. Everyone laughs. That's your new nickname, Kitchen Boy. It will stick for months. One historical fact for you Spartans believed that pain made boys sharper, not harder. They didn't want brutes. They wanted razor blades. Pain honed you. If you didn't scream, you were useful. If you did, you were embarrassing. Later that morning, you're told to refresh. That's code for scrubbing yourself with sand. There's no water. Of course there isn't. That would be too soft. You kneel with the others beside a shallow dish of coarse, sun-dried sand and rub it across your skin like a human file. Your knees, your chest, your face, even your scalp. Every scrape feels like a punishment, which is the point. Dirt is allowed, but softness never. One boy next to you, skinny, missing a front tooth, leans over and says, "I used to have a dog. I wonder if he misses me." You don't answer. You're not allowed to have dogs here. You're not even allowed to think about dogs here. You blink fast, pretending there's sand in your eyes. Not emotion. Definitely not emotion. Then food time. And by food we mean sludge. The black broth again. Same basin, different day. A boiled concoction that probably once saw a pig from a distance. It tastes like liquid regret and smells like burnt metal. One older boy snatches it before you get a turn. You protest barely. "Excuse me," you say, voice cracking. He hits you with the back of his hand. Hard. You drop. The basin spills. The broth soaks into the dirt. No one eats. The Paidonomos doesn't even blink. He just says, "Then you'll learn to move faster next time." Fun fringe tidbit here. There's evidence Spartans intentionally underfed boys to force them into stealing. Not because they couldn't afford food, they had plenty, but because theft built cunning. It created survivors. The catch: if you were caught stealing, you were punished. Not for stealing, for failing. You walk with a limp for the rest of the day. There's no sympathy. You're told to sit and learning means watching a staged fight between two boys just a year older than you. They're stripped down to loincloths, fists wrapped in thin leather strips. There are no helmets, no armor, and definitely no referees. The fight ends when one can't stand. You watch expression blank, because that's what's expected. The winner isn't praised. The loser isn't pitied. They're both sent to latrine duty. Glory comes later. This is just sharpening the blade. And still, historians argue whether the full brutality of these lessons is exaggerated by later writers like Plutarch, who was writing centuries after Sparta's golden age. But when you're the one being punched in the mouth before breakfast, you don't much care about scholarly debate. You just want to survive. Later, your task is simple: carry a large stone from one side of the compound to the other. That's it. Except the stone weighs more than your whole body, and it's covered in moss that makes it slick as soap. You lift it, you drop it. The trainer says nothing, just points at the stone again. You lift it, you drop it, again, and again, and again. By the end, your fingers are shaking, your vision swimming, and your shoulders feel like they're splitting apart. One boy passes you a broken stick to bite down on while lifting. You think it's a kindness. It's not. He just wants to see if your teeth break under pressure. You never get used to this. That's the myth. People think you adjust, but you don't. You get faster at hiding it. You learn to keep your jaw clenched and your hands from trembling, but the terror never leaves. It just learns to sit quietly in your chest. By nightfall, your mouth tastes like rust. You lie on your stone slab again, trying to ignore the bruises lining your sides like trophies. The others whisper stories. Some try to remember lullabies. One boy hums until he gets kicked for it. No songs, no softness. Sleep does not come easily tonight. Every part of your body aches. And tomorrow, more fists, more kicks. Maybe a stick to the ribs if you're lucky. But somewhere underneath the bruises, you feel a tiny shift. Not pride, not strength, just stillness. The first layer of softness peeled off, and no one cares what your name used to be. You wake up with dirt in your mouth, not on purpose. You must have rolled off the stone slab in the night. Or maybe someone pushed you. Either way, you're lying half face down in gravel cloak tangled around your legs, tongue coated in the familiar grit of the courtyard. You sit up, slowly, carefully. Every part of you aches. Your shoulders from the stone lifting, your jaw from yesterday's lesson, your stomach from being empty. Again. They don't call you for training. They don't need to. The smell of the broth tells you it's time. You file into the mess like livestock, barefoot, silent. The basin is smaller today. No meat. Just a gray swirl of something that used to be beans or lies. You kneel. You wait your turn. You sip. You gag. But you swallow. One boy, newer than you if that's possible, throws up after his first taste. That earns him a beating. Not from the trainers. From the other boys. Because wasting food is worse than insulting your ancestors. You learn to eat without tasting, without breathing, without thinking. Your cloak smells like mildew. No one's washed it because no one's allowed to. The only water you're given is for drinking, and even that feels like a reward. You're starting to itch. Your skin is dry and raw from the sand scrubbing. One kid scratches himself so hard during the night that he draws blood. Nobody notices. Here's a charming little historical fact. Spartan boys were deliberately exposed to harsh conditions, scorching heat, biting cold, open sores, lice, so they could grow numb to discomfort. It wasn't about thriving. It was about ignoring the body. You've nearly mastered it. Nearly. Today's assignment is rest. But not the kind that comes with pillows and books. It's enforced stillness. You're told to sit. Legs folded, hands on knees, back straight. For hours. You're not allowed to move. Not a toe. Not a blink too long. If you shift, whack. Staff across the thigh. If you fidget, whack. If you scratch that one maddening itch between your shoulder blades, whack, whack, double tap. You learn stillness the way a statue learns it through erosion. One older boy whispers, "Pretend you're a tree." Another says, "Pretend you're dead." They're both right. The real trick is disassociating, floating out of your own body, letting the hunger, the pain, the sting of the wind slip into the background. You imagine lying in a field, somewhere green, with bread, with a name, with socks. You don't get to finish the thought. Someone coughs, the staff swings, the Paidonomos doesn't speak much, but today he gives you a riddle. What's more dangerous, a sword or a boy who can wait to use it? No one answers. He doesn't want an answer. The sun climbs, the heat builds, your lips crack. You're still not allowed to move. Somewhere a fly lands on your cheek. It stays. You let it. Because if you swat it, you bleed. Again. And everyone sees. Afternoon drills are light. That's what they say. It starts with a sprint barefoot across sharp stone, then climbing a wall slicked with olive oil, then crawling under thorny bramble while your cloak snags and your knees slice open. Your reward, more stone lifting. You think it's punishment, but no. This is just maintenance. You're supposed to do it, every day, until you stop thinking it's hard. One fringe account tells of boys being trained to catch and kill foxes with bare hands, taught to grip tight and twist quick. No one knows if it's true or just symbolism for the kind of mental grip you need to survive here. But it makes sense. You're becoming the kind of person who could strangle a fox without blinking, or lie still while it bit you. Evening arrives. You'd think that would mean rest, but not in Sparta. The boys are gathered for inspection. One by one, you're made to strip your cloak, stand tall, and accept a physical review. They check for weakness, not just injuries, hesitation. If you wince when they press your bruises, you're marked. Literally. They mark your arm with charcoal, a black smear. That means extra drills tomorrow. You try not to react when they prod your ribs. You succeed. No mark. Progress. They reassign beds tonight. You don't get a say. You're now sleeping between Theros, the older boy, who trimmed your hair with that blunt knife, and another boy who hums while he sleeps and kicks without warning. You don't complain. There's no word for complain here. Really. The Spartans had a word for someone who whined too much lullabies, and it was used like a curse. You keep your mouth shut. The cold crawls in as night settles. One boy sneaks out for extra dry grass to stuff into his cloak. He gets caught. He's dragged back into the courtyard. Everyone is woken to watch. They lash him. He doesn't cry until the 6th strike. The trainers shake their heads. Too soft. You watch eyes burning. Not from emotion, just wind. Just dust. That's what you tell yourself. Back in bedstone again, you find a tiny pebble lodged in your hip. You leave it there, because bending over to move it feels like giving up. You think of the warm room again, the bread, the name someone called out. Was it yours? You can't remember. Tomorrow is competition day. You overheard 2 boys whisper it. The Paidonomos chooses teams, and you fight for everything: scraps, water, rest. You're expected to win without breaking anything valuable. That includes your bones. Maybe. Your stomach growls. You ignore it. The fly from earlier still with you. Maybe it thinks you're dead already. You close your eyes, and you don't even notice when sleep finds you. Your eyes snap open just before the first kick lands, not from reflex, but from instinct. You knew it was coming. The rhythm of Spartan mornings has settled into your body like a parasite. Pain is predictable now. Almost comforting. Almost. The kick lands anyway, catching your thigh dead center. You grunt, but don't flinch. That's good. That's what they want. Or more accurately, what they hate the least. Theros, your watcher, looms above you. On your feet, kitchen boy, he mutters. Competition day. You sit up fast, blink twice, and rub the crust of yesterday's broth out of your eyes. All around you, boys are stirring like reluctant ants, scraped knees, split lips, haunted eyes. They already know what the day holds. Fighting, and not the casual morning lessons. This is organized, structured, watched, scored. You don't eat first. That would make too much sense. You stretch mandatory. 20 squats, 30 jumps, and a round of balance drills that involve standing on one leg while holding a rock. You fail twice. The second time, the Paidonomos throws sand in your face. Too wobbly, he says. Wobbly boys don't hold shields. They are shields. The courtyard has been transformed into a mock battlefield. Circles drawn in the dirt. 2 crates stacked to serve as boundary markers. Teams are picked by age and size. You're thrown into the middle group. Not too young, not too strong. Just weak enough to lose. The rules are simple. Your team must protect a flag, a lump of goat hide tied to a stick, while trying to take the enemy's. You get no weapons. Just fists, feet, and the occasional tree branch if you're clever. You form up with 5 other boys. One is already limping. Another has dried blood on his cheek from something unrelated, probably a dream. Defend, Theros says, tapping your shoulder. And if you drop the flag, I'll drop you. That's not a threat. It's an expectation. The whistle blows, and then chaos. The first 10 seconds are noise. Feet pounding, cloaks flapping. Screams, not fear, but fury. Boys are trained to shout when charging. It stuns the other team. Most of them aren't stunned, just mad. A fist slams into your temple before you can even move. You stagger. Another boy shoves you into a tree. You scramble up. The goat hide's gone. You're already losing. Here's a historical twist for you. Real Spartan war games often ended in real injuries. They didn't fake violence, they practiced it. Bruises were badges. Broken noses meant you were taking initiative. Scars earned respect. Doctors optional. You don't want a scar yet, but you're close. The other team is smarter. They fake left, strike right. One of them swings a rock-filled cloth like a sling and smashes the kid next to you in the shin. He drops like laundry. You take the goat hide and run. 3 steps. 4. You slip. The ground is dry, but your legs betray you. Your knees collapse. You hit the dust hard, knocking the wind out of yourself. They take the flag. Your lungs burn. You cough. You expect punishment, but there isn't one. Not yet. Because losing isn't failure in Sparta. Crying about it is, so you swallow it. The sand, the ache, the embarrassment. You get back up. Round 2. This time you're told to attack. You nod. The team runs forward. You lag behind. A trick, a ruse. You loop wide, find a weak spot, grab the flag, and success. Your first taste of it. Theros watches you from the side. You hope for a nod, a smirk, anything. You get nothing. Classic Spartan reward system silence. Another team steps forward. Older boys, big ones. One of them has a scar down his jaw like a lightning bolt. You don't stand a chance. And that's the point. They wipe the floor with you, literally. One boy presses your face into the dirt and whispers, "Say something." You don't. That earns you respect. One quirky tidbit: Spartans practiced mockery combat. Teams insulted each other mid-fight to test mental endurance. If you cried or lost focus, you were benched or punished. Today you're mocked for your nickname, your height, even your ears. You respond with silence. That's survival. By midday, 3 boys are too injured to continue. One's nose is clearly broken, another vomited after a hit to the gut. He's dragged off by 2 elders without a word. You never see him again. Lunch is skipped. Your reward for a half-decent performance. You get to serve food to the older trainees. Black broth again with a bit more sludge at the bottom. You ladle it out slowly, pretending not to drool. "Didn't earn a bowl today," Theros says as you glance at the pot. You nod. You keep nodding until the hunger retreats like a sulky dog. Afternoon means silence drills. You're made to walk barefoot across a long stretch of gravel, slowly, carefully, eyes forward, mouth closed. Behind you, a boy with a stick. Every noise you make earns a strike. Your feet bleed, but your mouth stays shut. Because you remember what happened to the boy who flinched yesterday. The welts across his back looked like tree roots. You don't want tree roots. As the sun dips low, the Paidonomos calls for debriefing. He makes the worst performing boys fight again. Just the 2 of them, alone. One wins. One lies still too long. They throw water on him. He gasps. He's not dead, just close. The trainers laugh. Next time, one says, "Pretend you care about your bones." Night falls fast. No moon tonight, just stars, just wind, just groans you pretend not to hear. You sit by the latrine pit swatting flies when Theros appears. He drops something in your lap. Bread. Real bread. Still warm. "Don't let the others see," he says. "You lasted longer than I thought you would." You don't thank him. You just eat. Slowly. Carefully. One bite at a time. You think you taste honey. Probably just your imagination. As you curl up to sleep, bruised and cold, you realize something strange you're not afraid of tomorrow. Not because it's easier, but because you're becoming harder. And that scares you more than anything. It's the middle of the night when you feel it. Movement inside your cloak. Small. Quick. You think it's a breeze at first, then you feel the claws. Sharp. Scuttling. A mouse. Or a rat. Or something worse. You bolt upright, cloak thrashing. The movement draws attention. 4 boys glance your way, but none speak. One smirks. Another raises a brow like first time you hold still. The thing inside your cloak holds still too. There's no help coming. Not for rodents. Not for panic. You quietly unfasten the top of the cloak and shake it loose. A tiny mouse drops to the dirt, darts into the shadows, gone. You're lucky. Some boys have found snakes curled against their bellies. One boy last week had a scorpion in his boot. They made him finish morning drills with the sting still in his foot. That's the start of your day. You're starting to understand something fundamental about Sparta. There is no safety. Not in your clothes, not in your bed, not even inside your own skin. The morning begins with testing. The trainers don't explain. They just hand out tasks. You're given a length of twine, a wooden bowl, and one word: bring. Bring what you figure it out fast. You're expected to sneak food. Not from a kitchen, you don't have one. No, this is field work. Foraging. Theft. A lesson in cunning. There's a fig grove a few miles from the barracks. You've seen older boys wander back with juice-stained fingers. But the figs are heavily watched. You go anyway. You and 2 others. No one says it, but you're in competition. First step, sneak out unnoticed. That alone nearly gets you caught. A trainer circles near the barrack wall. You drop into the brush like a stone and stay still. He walks past. You don't breathe for a full minute. You make it to the grove. The fruit is ripe, dark, swollen, glistening like jewels. You grab 3. 1 for now. 2 for the others, maybe. Then you hear it. A crunch. Not a leaf, a boot. You freeze, hide behind a cypress trunk. A guard's coming. You try to move, but your foot snaps a twig. Loud, awful, obvious. The guard whirls around. You're spotted. You run. You make it back, but you're not fast enough. They're already waiting. The figs are gone. The wooden bowl is empty. Caught, says the Paidonomos. What did we say about stealing? You shake your head, that it's good if you succeed. He nods. Did you succeed? You hesitate. No. He lifts the staff. It's a blur. Across your back, again and again. You bite your lip. You think you taste copper. You don't cry. That earns you half a point, maybe. The other two boys weren't caught. One shares a fig with you that night under the stone bench. Doesn't say a word. Just places it in your palm and walks away. Small kindnesses happen like that here. Quietly. Like they're illegal. The cloak you're wearing still smells like rodent. You try not to think about it. Theros watches you from the edge of the courtyard during drills. You can tell he's measuring something, how fast you heal maybe. How much you limp. How little you sleep. You're called to spar. Your opponent's younger, skinny, nervous. You win. Quickly. But the trainer frowns. Too clean. Next round you're told to make it messy. So you do. You throw him down, you make him bleed. You don't like it, but you don't stop. Because liking things isn't part of the equation here. You remember honesty is failure. Spartans trained boys to lie with their eyes, their faces, their bodies. To lie so well that they could sit through pain without flinching. You're learning. Slowly. One fringe rumor passed among the boys says a Spartan once killed a child who cried during training. No adult confirms it. Historians still argue whether these stories are exaggerations meant to glorify brutality or warnings whispered into the past. You think about it as you sit through the next hour-long silence drill, a beetle crawling across your toes, and you don't react. You steal again that night. Not food, fire, a small spark from the forge. Enough to heat a nail, press it into a wound, close it. The boy you help doesn't thank you, but he stops bleeding. Theros sees it, says nothing, just walks past, a flicker of approval in the tight corners of his mouth. You're being watched at all times. That's the rule. Older boys, trainers, even your peers. The youngest ones, the Irenes as they're called, spy on you for favors. They report everything. If you sleep too soundly, if you blink too much, if your knuckles tremble when it's cold, nothing is yours, not even your weakness. And at night, if you whisper, someone listens. You wrap yourself tighter in your cloak, stomach full of half a fig spine burning from the staff's kiss, and wonder, what part of you is left? The boy who arrived here would have run home after the first punch. The boy now, he's still. He waits. He steals. And he does not flinch when a mouse runs across his chest. You've stopped noticing the cuts on your feet. They bleed, sure, but so does everything else. And if you don't complain, they stop being a problem. That's how the logic works here. The days blur now. Sand in your eyes, dirt in your teeth, dried blood under your nails. Your body isn't clean, but it's no longer yours to maintain. It belongs to Sparta. Every bruise is a message. Every scar is a signature. Today you learn about watching. Not observing, not glancing, watching. You're assigned to a lookout post near the edge of the compound. Just a bare ledge on a rocky hill where the wind doesn't stop. You crouch under a stone, lip eyes scanning the fig groves and training yards. At first it feels pointless. Nothing happens. But hours pass. And you start to notice patterns. The boy who always limps when he thinks no one's looking. The two who trade crusts of bread under the guise of wrestling practice. One older trainee who slips into the trees at night, then returns with a small feather tucked into his cloak, always the same type, always hidden. You're not told what to do with this information, but it's not for nothing. Because in Sparta, everyone watches everyone, even you. The youngest boys, called melorines, are given little wooden sticks, not for defense, for discipline. If they see you break posture, they hit you. If they see you whisper, they hit you. They're not strong, but they're enthusiastic, especially when they know they're being watched. One particularly gleeful 7-year-old taps your shin while you're eating. "You didn't bow your head before swallowing," he says so loudly. The paidonomos appears like smoke. You're told to run laps. 12, barefoot, no food until dusk. You run. Because everything is a test, and more importantly, everything is seen. One quirky fact here: Spartan boys were often followed by younger boys, trained to serve as both assistants and informants. Like reverse babysitters, they kept you in line by watching and reporting. And yes, the older you got, the more eyes were on you. Even the sky feels judgmental. You start looking over your shoulder when you sleep, just in case. Today, during sparring, you hold back a little. Your opponent is scrawny, too scrawny. You worry his arm might snap if you block too hard. That hesitation costs you. He doesn't land a clean hit, but someone saw the softness in your eyes. Theros. After the match, he doesn't speak. He just walks you to the corner of the courtyard and pulls your cloak over your head. Then he hits you. Open hand. No warning. No malice. Just a correction. Your mercy means his death, he says flatly. If he fights an Athenian with that arm and dies, it's your fault. He walks away. You fold your cloak back and don't even feel the sting, just the heat. You watch 2 boys get pulled from drills today. They're sent to the elders. No one says why. Rumor spreads fast they were caught whispering, not during lessons, just at night. One asked the other if he missed his mother, the punishment unknown. They don't come back. Historians still argue whether disappearances in the agoge were common or whether silence just became permanent. But the truth is, in a place where your own thoughts are liabilities, even missing someone becomes treason. You're quieter now. You listen more, but not like before. You listen strategically. Every cough, every skipped step, every breath too fast after a run, every sigh too long. You report 2 infractions by week's end. Both boys are disciplined, not by the paidonomos, but by their own teams. They glare at you afterward, but they don't touch you, because now you have value. You're a watcher. And in Sparta, watchers are the closest thing to safety. Tonight during silence drill, the wind is cold enough to bite. Your teeth chatter once, just once. The youngest boy hears it, the one with the stick. He raises it, but before he can swing, Theros steps in front of you. No, he was still. The boy hesitates. Theros repeats, still. The stick lowers. Later, Theros gives you a nod. Just that, a dip of the chin. And somehow that's worth more than bread. Your cloak still reeks of mouse. Your stomach hasn't known fullness in weeks. Your feet are a mess of scars and raw skin. But you're not just surviving anymore. You're adapting. Every blink is measured. Every breath accounted for. And you've stopped dreaming about home. Because dreams get reported too. The frost creeps in before the sun. When you open your eyes, your breath comes out in clouds. Thin, miserable little clouds that hang in the dark above your face, then vanish like they've thought better of staying. Your cloak is stiff with cold. Not frozen solid, but close enough. You can't tell if the damp smell is from last night's fog or the sweat you slept in. Either way, it clings. You stretch careful not to make a sound. The others are still asleep, their limbs curled inward like starved dogs. One boy's nose is pressed to the stone wall, a streak of dried blood flaking beneath his nostril. No fire. There's never fire. You've stopped expecting it. Sparta doesn't give you warmth. It gives you a reason to endure the lack of it. You shuffle out into the courtyard, barefoot as always. The stones are rimed with white and your soles go numb before you're halfway across. The cold sinks in ankles first, then knees, then spine. Your jaw tightens against the ache. You're not alone. Other boys are already lining up, teeth clenched, arms crossed not for comfort, but for posture. The first hour of the day is form a series of stance drills, where you hold your position until someone collapses or throws up. Today, the stance is kneeling. One knee up, one down, hands behind your back, head level, eyes forward. You do it for 20 minutes, then 30, then 50. The cold creeps under your knees like it owns the place. You stop feeling your toes. That helps. You look left. One boy's eye is twitching. You look right. Another is trembling so hard he looks like a reed in the wind. You stay still. When the Pythonomos claps once everyone stands, not everyone makes it. One boy's legs buckle. He topples forward, hits his chin. His cloak slips off. The trainers don't move. Pick him up, someone mutters. Not an order, a test. You wait. No one does. Eventually, the boy stirs, crawls upright, blood on his lip. He nods to no one in particular and rejoins the line. That's how it works. No rescue, just resolve. Spartan boys weren't expected to survive the cold. They were expected to outlast it. One documented case tells of boys sleeping outside during snowfalls with no fire or coverings. Some lost toes. That wasn't seen as failure. That was seen as calibration. You lose one layer of feeling today. Somewhere around midday, your fingers stop registering the rough wood of the training pole. You keep swinging, keep gripping, keep bleeding. The drills are faster now. Less instruction, more assumption. You're not told how to move, you're expected to already know. Someone shouts, "Shield wall." You form the shape with your arms. There are no real shields, just gestures, practice, the illusion of protection. It's enough to start a fight. The boy beside you slips. You try to hold the line, but your arm wobbles. The formation breaks. The trainers descend. They don't punish him. Or you. They punish the group. 100 push-ups. On stone. In frost. You finish 60 before your arms give out. But you get back up. Because collapsing once is weakness. Collapsing twice is endurance. There's a strange comfort in routine now. The pain is predictable. So is the silence. Even the screaming has a rhythm to it. The quirky detail today, Spartan boys weren't just trained to endure cold, they were denied basic comfort to develop internal fire. There's a fringe belief that they practiced sleeping in unusual positions to simulate battlefield terrain. One favored method, curled around a rock. You try it tonight. It's awful. But your ribs stop shivering after an hour. By the time night falls, your cloak is damp again. Not from rain, from sweat, from breath, from existence. There are drills scheduled under moonlight. The Pythonomos calls it ghosting. You're told to run silently across the entire training yard and back. No breathing, no footfalls, no cloak rustling. One mistake. Start over. Someone breathes too loud at the midpoint. Everyone restarts. 10 boys finish, 4 don't. 2 vomit. 1 goes down and doesn't get back up. He's dragged away by older trainees, quietly. No one speaks his name. No one asks questions. You lie awake later, staring up at the exposed beams of the barrack ceiling, the frost now painting your hairline in crystal flakes. And then you feel it. A scream. Not yours. Not even out loud. Just inside. Some small part of you still remembers what it was like to be warm, to be called by name, to hear someone laugh and not flinch. You shove that part deep. Smother it in ice. Because tomorrow is colder, and you'll have to be colder still. There's dirt under your fingernails, not the surface kind deep dirt. Pressed in. Permanent. It's under the nails, around the cuticles, in the tiny half-moons where clean skin used to live. You don't try to wash it off. Not anymore. No one does. There's no basin, no soap, just dust. Dust on your face, in your ears, in your mouth when you sleep wrong. And if you're caught trying to clean your hands in the drinking trough, you'll be whipped, not scolded, whipped. Because in Sparta, vanity is treason. Hygiene is indulgence. The drills today are called animal passage. You'll learn why soon. You and the others are led outside the compound into a patch of scrubland beyond the training yard. The ground here is different, loose and broken, filled with pebbles and thorns with roots that sneak up and grab your toes like they're alive. Your instructions are simple: move. Not walk, not run, not stand. Just move on all fours. Your hands hit the ground first. Sharp grit slices your palms. The cloak catches on everything. Within minutes, your knees are bleeding. But you keep going. You crawl like a wolf. You're expected to. Because in Sparta, if you can't move like an animal, you'll die like one. One boy starts panting, another coughs blood. You keep your mouth shut. You know the rules now. You sniff out your path through the brush cloak, snagging elbows, aching hair stuck to your forehead in sweaty clumps. Every movement hurts. That's the point. The Paidonomos watches from a distance, perched on a rock, arms folded. No emotion. Just a quiet ledger of who's breaking and who's pretending not to. Someone yelps behind you. A thorn in the foot. They keep crawling. The only way out is forward. Here's a grim little historical nugget: Spartan boys were sometimes fed raw animal organs during survival training. Not because they had to, but to strip away their reactions. If you gagged, you failed. If you cried, you got more. Which brings us to lunch, or what they call lunch. A dead squirrel is hung from a tree, stripped of fur, gutted, left swinging like a warning sign. You're told to divide and consume. You hesitate for half a second. Then you grab a piece, you chew. You don't ask what part it is. You swallow. Thero stands off to the side, nodding once, just enough for you to notice. He approves. That means more than food. The exercise isn't over. You're marched farther into the woods now, where the trees bend lower and the air smells like mold. You can hear insects and something else, buzzing and crunching. Your next task is strange. You're told to find something alive and kill it. Not for food, for silence. Take it down, the Paidonomos says without being heard. You split up. You spot a bird, too fast. A lizard, too small. Then a hare, brown, twitchy, half hidden in a thorn bush. You move slowly. You stop breathing, then snap. Your hands strike like a snake. It writhes. You pin it. It kicks. You grip tighter. The others are watching from the trees, not with cheers, with judgment. You twist. The kicking stops. Silence returns. You've passed. You don't feel proud. You don't feel sick either. You just feel still. Sparta's doing its work. You carry the hair back. No one thanks you. They skin it, strip it, and throw it into a fireless pit to roast slowly in the sun. You won't eat it today, or maybe ever. But the lesson lingers. Back at the barracks, they make you memorize a poem. No writing it down, just repetition. It's about wolves in the night. How they don't howl unless they're wounded. How the strongest ones never howl. You repeat it 50 times under your breath with your mouth closed tight. One quirky tidbit, there are accounts that Spartan boys were beaten if they failed to recite poetry during mealtime. Not for forgetting, but because art was considered discipline, not luxury. If your tongue couldn't serve form, it didn't belong in your mouth. You wonder if that's what's happening now. You fall asleep that night with the words still echoing in your skull. Wolves don't howl, not the strong ones. The boy next to you cries in his sleep, just a little. One quiet whimper. No one wakes him. But the next morning, he's sent on a solo drill, miles into the woods, barefoot with no food. The price of sound. You lie on your side watching the sun rise over the compound wall. Your nails are black. Your knees are scabbed. Your shoulders are burned from the midday sun and bruised from morning drills. And your eyes, they don't blink unless they have to. You've stopped moving like a person. You've started moving like a beast. And you're beginning to prefer it. You're told it's a game. That's how they frame it. Mock battle, they say, with a grin that could split stone. A test of tactics. Friendly competition. There is nothing friendly about it. You gather in the lower field, where the ground is still stained from last week's animal butchering. The grass is dry and thin, packed down from constant trampling. Around the edge of the field, other trainees perch like crows watching waiting. You're divided into 2 teams. 15 boys each. No armor, no shoes, no rules. Just a goal: seize the rock. It's not a metaphor. It's an actual rock, fist-sized, polished smooth by decades of bloodied hands. They place it on a mound in the center of the field like it's sacred. Maybe it is. You eye the other team. Older boys mostly, bigger. Their knuckles are already wrapped in cloth, some stained, some still clean. You wonder how long yours will stay that way. The Paitanomos raises a hand. Silence settles like ash. Begin. There's no signal, no count. Just a rush of limbs and noise. You sprint forward low and fast. Dirt sprays into your eyes, but you don't stop. You catch a glimpse of the rock bright in the sun, untouched, before someone slams into your side. You tumble, roll, spring up. A fist grazes your ear. Another shoves your shoulder. You duck under an elbow and drive forward, hands outstretched. You touch the rock, but only for a second. An older boy tackles you from behind. You hit the dirt. Hard. His knee presses into your spine and your face grinds into the earth. You taste blood. Probably yours. He growls something you don't understand. Doric slang, maybe. Or just rage. You don't respond. You twist. You grab a handful of his cloak and pull. He falls with you. Someone else grabs the rock and sprints. You scramble up and chase legs, already shaking, lungs already screaming. You're not trying to win anymore. You're trying not to fail in front of everyone. This is what passes for a game here. And here's the kicker. According to historical sources, these mock battles often ended in permanent injuries. Dislocated joints, broken jaws, even lost eyes. But they were encouraged. Because in Sparta, war didn't start on the battlefield. It started at home. You chase the boy with the rock until he slips. The others pile on him. You dive into the chaos, elbows, knees, cloaks whipping in your face. You don't know where the rock is anymore. All you know is you're fighting someone. Maybe 3 someones. You land a hit. You get 1 in return. There's blood on your tongue again. You swing harder. Your cloak is ripped. Your ear is ringing. Your shin meets something solid ahead maybe, and someone screams. For real. It's the kind of scream that cuts through the noise. Everyone freezes. The boy on the ground isn't moving. His leg is bent wrong, very wrong. The Paidonomos walks over slow and deliberate. He looks down. He doesn't kneel. He doesn't speak. Then he points. "Carry him," he says. Two boys lift the injured boy like he weighs nothing. They vanish into the barracks. No one claps. No one even breathes. The game continues. You almost forget it's supposed to be over when someone finally throws the rock to your team's side. The Paidonomos claps again. Victory. But there's no celebration. Just bruises, just dust. You feel something trickle down your ankle, blood or sweat. You don't bother checking. Someone hands you a bowl of water. Not to drink, to pour over your face. It stings. The cuts react before your brain does. You hiss through your teeth. Theros appears at your side, says nothing, then rips a strip from his own cloak and binds your hand. Tight. Quick. Like tying a knot you don't want to come undone. Next time he mutters, "Hit lower." You nod. That's praise. There's a new exercise that afternoon, blind running. They tie a cloth over your eyes and spin you 3 times. Then you're told to sprint down a hill and stop before reaching the pit. You don't know what the pit is, only that it's deep and the edge is real. You listen to the others go first. Most of them make it. One doesn't. You hear the crunch. He's pulled out by his cloak covered in dirt, howling. Not from pain, from humiliation. You take your turn. The blindfold goes on. The spinning starts. Then the wind hits your face. You run, fast, too fast. You count your steps. 10, 15, 20, then drop. Not to the ground. Into a roll. You stop inches from the pit. You can feel the edge. You can smell the rot below. You passed. Barely. You go to sleep that night still tasting dirt. Your mouth is full of iron and soil. You don't brush it out. You don't even drink. Because the part of you that used to gag on filth is gone. You've been in real battles now, even if they call them games. And tomorrow, when they throw you back in, you won't be afraid. You'll be ready. Because what breaks bones today sharpens instincts for tomorrow. You're woken by silence. No shouts, no drills, no sunrise trumpet. Just the stillness that says something's wrong. Or worse, something's coming. Theros is already up, crouched by the doorway, tying a rope around his wrist. A leather pouch dangles from his belt. When you sit up, he glances your way and says one word, Krypteia. You've heard whispers about it before, half myth, half threat. You were told it comes without warning. You were told it's not a lesson. And you were definitely told never to ask questions. Theros tosses you a knife, not a training blade, a real one, iron, dull from years of use but heavy. Real. He ties a second rope around your wrist, tight enough to cut off circulation. It bites. You talk to no one, he says. Not even me. Then he's gone. You're left alone, kneeling beside your slab, holding the knife like it's made of lightning. Your cloak is the only thing you're allowed to wear. You wrap it tight. You step outside. The night is endless, and this is how it begins. You and 20 other boys scattered across the outskirts of Sparta, hidden by rocks and scrub. No light, no food, no instructions except one passed down in whispers, hunt the helots. This isn't a game. It's a ritual, a rite, and a warning. The Krypteia is Sparta's shadow test, an ancient practice where elite trainees are sent out under cover of night to stalk the state's enslaved population. They are to move in silence, to observe, to strike, to return unseen. Historians still argue whether this was symbolic policing or cold-blooded execution, whether it was a tool of fear, a form of psychological breaking, or both. But the truth here in the darkness doesn't care about arguments. The truth smells like sweat and fear and damp wool. You creep through the fields, knees bent, heart hammering. You see a helot hut in the distance, a flicker of fire inside. Someone hums. You stop. This is what you're expected to do. They didn't say you had to, but they didn't say you didn't. You crouch. You breathe through your nose. You tighten your grip on the knife. Inside the hut, a woman tends a pot over the fire. A child sleeps near her feet. You back away, not because of morality, but because of noise. There are easier targets. You crawl through mud for the next hour, lose your bearings, regain them, nearly walk into a bramble wall, then scale a rock to look for movement. You see two shapes in the distance, talking, both male, broad-shouldered. One stands watch while the other digs with a short-handled hoe. Helots, not enemies, not warriors, just workers. But you were told, remove threats, reduce numbers, strengthen state. You don't decide what a threat is. You carry out the will of Sparta. You creep closer. One of them turns, too fast. You freeze. He doesn't see you. You move again. Slow. A snake in tall grass. Then snap. A twig underfoot. The one digging looks up. Your body moves before your mind catches up. You lunge. The knife slips once, twice before you find the target. You don't aim well. You don't need to. It's clumsy. Loud. The man collapses, gasping. The second one runs. You don't chase him. You stay over the fallen body, both hands shaking. Your cloak is darker now. Wet. Your hands stink. You wait for guilt. It doesn't come. Just the pounding of your heart and the realization you passed. Because passing here doesn't mean surviving. It means returning. You move again, deeper into the woods, hiding the blade, pressing yourself against tree trunks to absorb their stillness. By sunrise, you're back at the compound. No one greets you. No one checks your blade. But they know. Theros meets your gaze once from across the courtyard. He nods. And that's it. You clean the knife in the drinking trough. Risky, but quiet. The water runs pink for 2 seconds before fading. You crawl back into bed without sleeping. You stare at the ceiling, arms folded. The rock beneath your spine is warm now. Not from the sun, from blood. The sun rises like nothing happened. Birds chirp. Sand shifts. Somewhere in the barracks, someone coughs. Life resumes quiet and ordinary. Except you're not. You're different, not visibly. You still look like a tired boy wrapped in wool and bruises, but inside something's missing. You can't name it. You're not even sure when it left. Maybe during the crawl through the helot fields. Maybe the second your blade slid into someone's ribs. Or maybe it disappeared right after, when you realized you didn't feel like a monster. You just felt cold. Not ashamed. Not proud. Just cold. You stand in line for morning inspection, face blank, hands clean, cloak tucked neat. The trainer doesn't even glance twice at you. That's good. Attention means failure. Across the yard, another boy limps forward. He's back from the same night. You exchange no words, but your eyes meet. That's enough. You're both part of the club now. No badges, no applause, just shared silence and blood-stiffened hems. Today's drills are designed for one thing: stress. You've earned it. The trainers bring out wooden shields and swords. Not toys, these are heavy knotted clubs carved into mock weapon shapes. If you swing wrong, you break your thumb. You grip the shield with cracked palms. The sword digs into a blister from last week that never closed. Your opponent is a boy from your age group. You fought him before, but not like this. Because today, there are stakes. This is first blood. The first to bleed is the loser. Not faint, not fall, just bleed. You square up, feet shoulder width, knees bent, eyes fixed. He lunges first. You parry barely. He comes again faster. His blade slaps against your shield so hard it numbs your arm. You pivot, swing, miss. He laughs a short, barked sound. Mistake. You drive your shield into his chest and strike with the hilt. The edge of your wooden sword catches his cheek. A thin red line opens. He drops back, bleeding. Match over. You don't smile. You just step away and drop your shield. Good, the trainer says. Now help him. You pause, help, that's new, but you obey. You press a rag against his cheek. He doesn't meet your eyes. Not out of fear, out of humiliation. Bleeding in Sparta is nothing. Bleeding first is a warning. Another fact from the scrolls, Spartan boys weren't taught to show mercy, but they were taught to work in units. No soldier fights alone. Even the agoge, brutal as it is, isn't about solo victory. It's about forging unity through pain. Even so, no one thanks you. Later the day turns sour. You're chosen for latrine duty, again. Not punishment, just rotation. You carry buckets of waste across the back fields, dodging roots, gagging only once. You're getting good at not reacting. It's almost a game now. How many awful things can your body endure without you flinching? The answer is all of them. One of the younger boys drops his bucket. The contents spill. The stench is immediate. He looks at you with wide eyes like he expects help. You keep walking, because compassion makes you memorable. Memorable gets you targeted. By afternoon, your shoulders are raw. Your back is damp with sweat and stink. That's when the instructors call for formation. Inspection, they say. But it's not for posture. It's for scars. Each boy stands with arms out, cloaks removed, chests bare. They walk by slowly scanning your skin, marking your story with their eyes. You've got new ones along your ribs, across your left forearm, near your collarbone. The trainer nods. Good distribution. You don't ask what that means. You don't have to. It means you're being hit in multiple places, not favoring a side, not flinching, not protecting. You're learning to be equally vulnerable. You're learning to never be vulnerable. Tharos watches from a distance. You see him now more as a guide than a tormentor. He's been through all of this. More probably. He says little, does less. But when he speaks, it sticks. Every scar is a page he told you last week. When you've filled the book, you can call yourself Spartan. You're on chapter 4, maybe 5. Night falls heavy. The boy you beat this morning offers you his crust of bread. You shake your head. He shrugs and eats it himself. This is the closest thing you've had to a conversation all day. You sleep badly. The cot is harder than usual. Or maybe your back is just softer. A dream visits strange and fast. You're back in the field. The helot man isn't resisting. He just stares. Not angry, not pleading, just aware. You wake up before anything happens, not sweating, just awake. A beetle crawls across your foot. You don't move. The silence drills have trained you well. The boy beside you mutters something in his sleep. A name, maybe a brother, maybe a pet. He shouldn't have said it. In Sparta, memory is dangerous. Tomorrow he'll pay for that slip, and you'll watch. Because that's what Spartans do. You're not told it's the Krypteia. This time there's no whisper, no warning, no blade slipped into your hand while the others sleep. This time they don't ask you to vanish. They make you. Mid-morning, you're pulled from drills. Not roughly, not with ceremony. Just a quiet tug on your shoulder by a man with a scar across both lips, like he's always on the verge of smiling, but never quite gets there. He doesn't give his name. He hands you a black cloak. Not brown, not gray, black. You're not alone. 4 other boys are led with you, each handed the same cloak, the same long look from the instructors. 2 you recognize, 1 you don't. None of you speak. You're marched through a narrow gate at the rear of the training yard, one you've never passed before. The hinges scream as it opens, then slams shut like a verdict. There's no food, no water, no briefing. Only a knife again. Yours this time. Your hands remember the weight before your mind does. You follow the scar-lipped man into the hills, past the edge of the compound, through scrub and sharp stone and sunlight so bright it feels angry. Then he stops. This is where it begins. That's all he says. Then he walks away. And now you're gone. Gone from the records. Gone from the mess line. Gone from the eyes of the trainers and the whispers of the boys. For the next several days, or is it weeks, you are outside Sparta. Your test begins. The rules survive. Stay hidden. Return stronger. If you fail, no one looks for you. Welcome to the real Krypteia. A secret within a secret. A test not of strength, but of shadow. Historians still argue whether the Krypteia was a rite of passage or a covert policing unit, a way to terrify the Helot population under the guise of elite training. Maybe it was both. Maybe it didn't matter. Because here you have no name, no age, no team, only a blade, a black cloak, and the dark. You build a shelter. Not much. Just branches leaves a pit to crawl into when the wind howls. You catch a lizard and eat it raw. The tail wiggles longer than expected. You chew through it anyway. You sleep in shifts. You dream in pieces. And you start to lose the calendar in your head. One day, you spot a Helot farmer walking alone, carrying a yoke over his shoulders. You crouch behind a rock, watching. He looks tired, older. Not a threat. You let him pass. Not out of mercy, out of strategy. Too visible, too exposed. Later you approach a hut under moonlight. Inside, 2 figures sleeping. You could strike, but you don't. You're not here to murder. You're here to learn who you are when no one sees you. You wait outside until dawn, then you vanish. Your body starts to break down. Your teeth ache. Your left knee clicks when you crouch. Your skin is a patchwork of bites, scratches, and grit. And still you keep moving. You pass another boy once in the brush. Just a glimpse. Black cloak. Eyes hollow. He doesn't speak. He disappears without sound. That night you find a Helot path guard dozing against a tree. You don't kill him. You take his knife instead. Quietly, his sandals too. Yours are gone long since shredded by stone. You sleep better that night, but only slightly. Then the storm. A full night of wind and freezing rain. Your shelter collapses. Your cloak soaks through. You shiver so hard your teeth grind together until your jaw aches. You crawl into a hollow tree. Sleep doesn't come, but neither does death. And that's what matters. The next day you follow animal tracks. Not for food, just to test your instincts. You find a dead rabbit, still warm. You eat half, save the rest. Your stomach turns, but you keep it down. You're stronger than your body now. At one point you cut your arm climbing a shale slope. Deep, too deep. You tear a strip from your cloak and tie it tight. The pain is white hot. You keep walking. Your shadow lengthens. The world shrinks to noise and breath and motion. You forget what day it is. You forget what you're supposed to become. Until one morning you wake to silence. Not just absence of birds silence, true silence. Sparta is near. You know the path. You walk it slowly, cloak torn, knife dull, eyes older. You step through the gate you left behind. No fanfare, no greeting, just Theros. He meets you in the courtyard, doesn't speak, just looks at your hand, still holding the blade. Then he turns, and you follow. You've returned. That's all that matters. You don't tell anyone what happened out there. No one asks. Because the Cryptaya isn't a story, it's a scar. And scars are private here. You never forget the first one. Not the first punch. Not the first time you bled on the stones. Not even the first time you went to sleep hungry. No, the first kill. That stays. Even when you don't want it to. Especially then. You return from the Cryptaya changed. And not just in ways you can explain. You walk differently. Slower. Quieter. Your steps no longer echo because you've learned how to move without leaving traces. The trainers see it. The other boys see it. You're pulled aside during morning drills. No questions, no comments, just a test. They pit you against someone your own size, someone who hasn't gone out yet. You dismantle him in seconds. Not flashy, not brutal, efficient. Your moves are shorter now, tighter. You strike not to dominate, but to end. The trainers nod. That's what they wanted. The boy you dropped limps away, blinking through the dirt in his eyes. You stand there breathing slow, because you remember. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Out in the wilderness days into your isolation, after the cold had carved you thin and the silence had filled your ears with its own voice, he found you. Another boy, not a helot, not a farmer, not an animal, a fellow Spartan. You both wore black cloaks. You both held dull knives. He said nothing, just stared. Then he lunged. No warning, no signal, just movement. That's the test no one tells you about. Sometimes they send another boy after you. Sometimes it's part of the challenge. Maybe he was told to kill you. Maybe he was scared you were told to kill him. Historians still argue whether these duels were planned by the state or just survival gone wrong. There's no record of it. But you remember it perfectly. He was taller than you, older, stronger, but you were hungrier. The fight was clumsy, loud, ugly. He knocked you flat twice. The third time you didn't get back up, you rolled under him and drove the blade where instinct told you to. He gasped, then it was quiet. He didn't die instantly. You waited. You watched. Because that's what you've learned to do. When he stopped breathing, you didn't move for a long time. Not from fear, but because part of you wanted to stay there. Let the dirt bury both of you. You don't remember walking away, but you remember the weight. And now that weight is always with you. Not guilt. Memory. Theros never asks what happened, but he watches you closely after you return. He starts assigning you different duties, more authority. You're told to lead smaller groups through obstacle drills. You're allowed to correct others. You've become something different now. Not a leader, not yet, but someone who has seen the edge and didn't fall. That afternoon, a boy drops his spear during the long march exercise. It's a mile walk, uphill, spears balanced on 2 fingers. He stumbles. It clatters. The trainer turns, but Theros steps in. He picks it up, he says, and runs it back to the start. Everyone turns to look at you. You nod. Make it fast, you say. And the boy does. You realize then they're listening to you now. The dynamic has shifted. You've earned the black look in your eyes. It's a mirror, and they see themselves in it. That night, the barracks are quiet. Too quiet. A storm is crawling across the sky, low thunder, occasional flashes. You can't sleep. You lie awake, blade beside your slab cloak pulled high. The image of the boy still comes back. Not his face, not his voice, the way he fell, how it felt. Not hard, not noble, not slow, just real. He didn't beg, he didn't scream, he just was, and now he isn't. That's the part that stays. You rise before dawn and head outside. You sit on the wall that overlooks the low farmland, the same fields you crept through under moonlight. You think about how small it all looks now. You think about how fast it changed. You don't cry. Of course you don't. Spartans don't cry. But your eyes sting from the wind. You tell yourself it's the cold. The sun rises like a blade through the clouds, slicing the sky clean. And you sit there alone for a long time. Until someone walks up beside you. Theros. He says nothing. He sits. The silence between you says more than any chant or poem ever could. You don't speak. He doesn't ask. Because he knows. And now you do too. You're not a boy anymore. Not after that. The dawn drills hit different now. Not because they're easier, they're not. You still run barefoot through freezing dirt, still slam your knees into stone when a trainer yells, drop, still swing dull iron until your wrists throb. But you don't flinch anymore. You don't think anymore. You execute. That's what the instructors want to see. That's what earns you the nods now. No praise. Just that subtle shift in how they look at you. Like you're no longer someone being shaped, but something already useful. Useful is the highest compliment in Sparta. You're 17 now. No birthday celebration. You only know your age because the Paidonomos shouts it at you during formation one morning. Too old to be soft, as he kicks your shin and makes you run drills twice over. The younger boys look at you differently now. Some with fear, some with imitation. One of them, thin, nervous, always blinking, starts mirroring your movements during combat practice. You notice. You don't say anything, because that's how mentorship works here. No words, just watching. You train all morning with weighted poles. At lunch, though, no one calls it that you're allowed to sit near the older trainees, just a little closer to the inner ring of the communal mess. It's not privilege. It's an invitation to shut up and observe. The soup is thicker today. Barely. Less like broth, more like lumpy oil. You chew through it with your eyes on the center table where two of the oldest boys discuss something over raw olives. Theros is there too. He catches your gaze, flicks his fingers once. Later. That's what it means. Sure enough, after chores, you're pulled aside. You don't ask why. You're just told to follow. He leads you into one of the unused training rooms, bare stone oil lamp hanging crooked from a metal hook. The walls sweat moisture. The floors covered in straw and dried mud. He sits, cross-legged, silent. You sit too. 10 seconds pass, then 20. Then he speaks. You killed someone out there. You say nothing. He nods like that's the right answer. You want to talk about it? You shake your head. Good. He leans back. Here's what matters. You made breakfast afterward. That's how we know. You blink. He clarifies, you killed, then came back, then functioned. That's the test. You're quiet. He continues. Krypteia isn't about who you kill. It's about who you are when you're done. Some boys come back with tears, some come back proud. Both are useless. You don't ask what you are. He doesn't tell you, but he hands you a dry strip of meat, real meat, salted. You eat it slowly. It tastes like victory and iron. Then he says, "You're not done." And he walks out. The next few days pass in a blur of advanced drills, shield formations, spear lunges, blindfolded sparring. You're paired with boys who are bigger, faster, hungrier. The Paidonomos watches every strike, corrects none of them. If you lose, too bad. If you win, do it again. You win most of them. One boy refuses to get up afterward. He lies on the ground with a bleeding lip and says he's not human. He's talking about you. You sleep that night with your blade closer than usual, not because you're scared, because you're expected to be ready, at all times. The food rations increase barely, a reward maybe, or a test to see if your stomach can handle more. Some boys overeat. They vomit during morning runs. They're punished. You eat slow, small bites, nothing wasted. One night, a group of the older boys returns from a mission outside the city. Not Cryptea, something bigger. Their faces are blank, but their cloaks are stiff with dried mud and red streaks. No one asks what happened. But there's a tension in the air, like the barracks are holding their breath. You're told to fetch water for the elders, not the instructor's actual elders, the ones with white hair and permanent scowls. You bring it in a ceramic pitcher. Bow low. Leave. But you hear one of them mutter, "He's almost ready." That night you can't sleep, not because of fear, but because of what comes next. You're not sure what that is, but you know it's near. You sit in the courtyard, watching the moon drift past the cracked edge of the east wall. Your hands are stained with ash from the fire pits. Your knees still ache from the day's marches, but your breath is steady. Your thoughts are quieter now. You think of the kill, sometimes. Not the moment, not the sound, just the fact that it happened, and how no one ever asked why. They only asked if. The answer was always yes. The boy who once flinched at cold broth gone. The boy who tried to be fair in a mock battle gone. You're still here, and that means something. Even if no one says it. Especially because no one says it. Tomorrow they'll test you again. They always do. And you'll pass, because you know how to make breakfast with blood on your hands. You're marched to the edge of a dead battlefield. Not a training ground. Not a field dressed up for drills. A real battlefield. The smell hits first. It's not blood, not fresh. That faded days ago. Now it's wrought iron and heat-baked leather. The wind carries it in thick waves pushing into your throat until you can taste it. No one complains. That's part of the test. The trainers stop at the edge of the plateau where the land dips into a mess of blackened earth, broken shields, and bones. Real bones. Some human, some horse, all scattered like forgotten tools. You've heard of this place. A skirmish against Argos last month. A small one by Spartan standards. Less than 100 dead. That's manageable. Apparently that means you get to train here. Tharos walks beside you, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Mind your step, he says. That's your only instruction. You're told to form units of 5. No weapons, just cloaks and commands. The exercise formation training. You are to practice marching through the battlefield in step without breaking ranks, without stepping on bodies. The logic is clear enough. If you can hold formation here, you'll hold it anywhere. If you flinch at a corpse, you're not ready. The boy to your right whispers, "Don't breathe through your nose." He's right. You breathe shallow, mouth open, cloak drawn high. You step into the ruin. Underfoot, something cracks. You keep moving. The line of boys to your left loses rhythm. One stumbles on a ribcage half sunk in the mud. The Paidonomos screams, "Reset, everyone starts over." Again and again. You lose count after 5 restarts. The 6th time, no one speaks. The stench no longer surprises you. The bones begin to feel like branches. The armor scraps like rocks. You begin to adjust. It's a psychological ploy, and it's working. Spartans didn't shield their youth from war. They marinated them in it. Historical records note that Spartan boys were sometimes taken to watch battlefield cleanup, not to learn logistics, but to become emotionally inert. If you vomited, weak. If you stared, curious. If you ignored it, Spartan. After the 12th march, you're told to rest. The resting area. A patch of flattened grass with 3 corpses still rotting nearby. Flies buzz in clouds. You sit down like it's any other afternoon. Another boy gags behind you, quietly. You don't look at him. Your eyes are fixed on a piece of armor nearby, half a greave dented. Someone tried to carve a mark into it. An X. Maybe a name. You wonder if the man it belonged to had a family. You wonder if he bled out alone. You wonder if he cared. You wonder why you don't. After lunch, if you can call dried barley and cold broth lunch, they hand out practice spears. You're told to drill thrusts over the dead, not beside them, over them. One boy hesitates before stepping across a rib cage. He's hit in the back with a staff. Fear of death, the instructor says, is death. You step over a skull. It cracks beneath your foot. You don't react. That night, you eat in silence. The mess hall is unusually quiet. The older boys, Theros included, seem distant, focused, as if something is coming, something more. You're told to gather for evening review. You're led back to the battlefield. This time, no formations, no practice spears, just listening. The Paidonomos stands atop a boulder holding a small shield and nothing else. You walked where men died. He looks at you all. Now you understand what it means to march. A pause. Then war is not a song. It's not honor. It's not glory. It's this. He points down. You will die here or in a place like it, and no one will sing your name. He lets that hang. You're not being trained to survive. You're being trained to die, properly. You stand cloak, still damp with sweat and dust. You feel a whisper of something in your chest. Not fear, not pride, just a kind of surrender. Like you finally stopped pretending this place is going to give you anything back. Later in the barracks, you sit beside your slab. Your feet are stained from the mud of the battlefield. The hem of your cloak smells like death. You don't try to clean it. Theros walks by. Did you step on a skull? He asks. You nod. Did it crack? You nod again. He grins. Good. He walks away. You lie down. You sleep fast. And when you dream, you see the battlefield again. But this time, you're not marching through it. You're part of it. Just another shape in the dirt. And that feels fine. The king eats better than you. He's only a few years older, barely into manhood, but when you stand outside the palace hall holding a wooden bowl of thick stew and half-scorched bread, you realize just how wide the gap really is. Inside, the young king reclines on a raised platform surrounded by elders and strategoi. His tunic is clean. His sandals are laced in red-dyed leather. A boy your age pours him wine from a silver jug you've never been allowed to touch. You were chosen to serve here for the day, an honor assigned without explanation. They don't explain honors. They just watch how you carry them. The palace walls are heavy with incense and authority. The floors are polished stone and the air doesn't reek of sweat or blood or training pit mud. It smells soft. You hate it. You also want to stay. The king doesn't look at you. Not once. His eyes remain fixed on the map unfurled across the table, some borderland campaign probably. You try not to stare at the food. Meat. Not goat. Actual meat. With fat on it. He dips his bread in the stew and takes a bite. You swallow. Not saliva envy. One of the strategoi waves a hand. You move forward, setting a clay cup beside the map. Your fingers brush the parchment. It's stained with ink and oil. It's also stained with power. You realize something as you back away. The king hasn't trained with you. He hasn't sparred with you. He's never shared your mud or frostbite or silence drills. And yet, he commands all of it. That's the Spartan paradox. Everyone bleeds, but not everyone has to. Historically, Spartan kings were born into a rare double monarchy, two kings ruling in tandem, both from ancient bloodlines. They led in battle and oversaw religious rites, but they didn't endure the full agoge. They weren't meant to be sharpened like the rest of you. They were the ones who wielded the blades, not became them. You're dismissed by a nod. Outside, the wind slaps the smell of roasted meat out of your hair. You walk back to the barracks with your stomach clenched so tight, it feels like it's trying to digest itself. Lunch is waiting when you return. Black broth, hard bread, the usual. You don't complain, but you chew slower today. You've seen what real food looks like. It's not just about hunger anymore. It's about hierarchy. The other boys ask where you were. You don't answer. You know better. But you can feel their curiosity. It sits on your shoulders like sand. You spend the afternoon in repetition drills, spear routines, block formations, silent regrouping. Nothing new. Just refining what's already been beaten into your bones. You stumble once. No one sees. Or so you think. Later, Theros brushes past you and mutters, "The king wouldn't have stumbled." You nod. He's not mocking you. He's reminding you. That night after the mess hall clears, you're summoned again. Not to the palace, to the inner training yard. Only a few boys are there. Older, silent. You're told to kneel. Then a bowl is placed before you. Stew. Meat. Real. Eat, says the instructor. You hesitate. Eat. You do. You try not to make a sound, not to let your eyes widen. But it's impossible. The warmth, the salt, the grease, it's everything your body forgot it wanted. When you finish, the bowl is taken away. No explanation, no reaction, just gone. The instructor looks at you. You will remember what that tastes like. You nod. Good, because it will be years before you taste it again. You're sent back to the barracks. The smell clings to your hands. The others sniff the air as you pass. No one speaks, but they know. And you realize the cruelest part of the day isn't the cold, the drills, or the cracks in your spine from a week of bad sleep. It's the reminder that luxury exists, that somewhere someone eats better, lives better, rules better, and it's not you, yet. You lie awake that night thinking about the king's sandals, the way they laced high on his calves. You imagine the sound they made on smooth stone. You imagine wearing them. Then you force the thought away. Because if the instructors ever caught you dreaming of royalty, they'd feed you something worse than broth. Still, the taste of that meat doesn't leave your mouth. Not even in sleep. The mess hall is louder tonight. Not with conversation, Spartans don't chatter, but with tension. The kind that crackles under skin, showing up in the way boys slam their bowls down harder than usual, chew faster, glare longer. Something's shifting. You feel it when you walk in. You're one of the last to arrive, the sharp clatter of your bare feet on stone echoing as you approach the low communal table. There are no seats here. There are positions. Where you sit tells everyone who you are, or more importantly, who you aren't. Tonight, you hesitate a second too long. The boy behind you, smaller, leaner, always quiet, slides into the spot you were about to take. That's all it takes. You grab his shoulder. He freezes. Every eye in the room turns slow and heavy. You don't say a word. You just wait. He stands, moves 2 steps down. You sit. But the moment doesn't vanish. It festers. Your meal arrives. Black broth again. Bits of barley floating like regrets. You take your first sip. The boy who lost his place is watching you. You know this because you can feel his stare boring into the back of your head. You finish your meal like nothing happened, but it's already begun. See, the mess hall isn't just about eating. It's where alliances form, rivalries spark, and reputations harden like old bread. There's no talking, but the silence is full. If you chew too loud, you're soft. If you finish too slow, you're weak. If you spill even a drop, you're marked. Tonight, one boy does just that. A bit of broth dribbles down his chin. The slap is immediate. The trainer doesn't even look up. He just whips a flat hand across the offender's face mid-step, then keeps walking. The boy wipes the blood and keeps chewing. Another rule: never stop chewing. You remember one of the old fringe stories the trainers whispered once, how boys were sometimes made to eat while being punched. To teach rhythm, focus, discipline under pain. Historians doubt that one, sure. But here it wouldn't surprise you. You finish your broth. The bowl is empty. You wipe it clean with a thumb, then lick your thumb. An older boy at the far end sees it. He narrows his eyes. Noted. Everything is noted. That's what makes the mess hall so dangerous. You rise and carry your bowl to the cleaning trough. No one speaks, no one nods. But behind you, the air shifts. When night drills begin, it all boils over. The smaller boy, the one you displaced, charges at you first. No weapons, just fists. You're not surprised. He aims low. A smart move. He's fast, but clumsy. You sidestep. He grazes your ribs just enough to sting. You reply with your elbow. Not too hard, just enough to say something. Then the others circle. Some jump in, some don't. This isn't official. This isn't sanctioned. But it's allowed. Because the trainers don't break it up. They watch. You recognize the test. It's not about victory. It's about dominance. Your job isn't to win. It's to make sure they don't try it again. You fight like a ghost, strike shift, vanish. You don't try to hurt anyone too badly, but you do make them hesitate. By the end, 3 boys are limping. You're not. The trainer claps once. Mess order restored. That's all he says. Everyone files back to the barracks, but the silence isn't relief. It's recalibration. Your place at the table, now it's yours. You lie on your slab, breathing through a split lip. Theros walks by. You should have hit harder, he mutters. You shrug. Next time, he snorts. Good, because there will be a next time, and there will. Because once you claim ground here, you're forced to defend it. Every bowl, every inch of space, every breath. You drift off to sleep with the memory of barley and blood. And in your dreams, you sit at the head of a table that never ends. But everyone else is eating with broken fingers. You don't dream anymore. At least not in the way people mean when they talk about warm fields or old memories. Your nights are quiet now. Blank stretches of black interrupted only by the occasional jolt of pain when you roll onto a bruise that hasn't quite settled into scar yet. This morning begins with shouting. Not the usual bark of orders, wailing, someone lost a toe. Frostbite, simple, boring. He didn't wrap his feet last night. Didn't stuff his cloak with grass like the rest of you learned to. And so sometime before dawn, the cold crept in and bit. They don't call a healer. They don't even pause breakfast. The boy is made to run laps around the training yard until he collapses. Everyone else is told to observe. see where softness leads. He limps past you on lap 4, one sandal dark with blood, the other foot wrapped in rough cloth. No one offers help, not because they don't care, because that's the rule, and rules don't bend here. Ever. Even when they're bleeding, even when they're dying. Spartan law was written not on paper but on posture, on pain, on discipline. Lycurgus, the mythical lawgiver, left no written constitution, just habits passed like infection. Historians still debate if he even existed. But here he's more real than the man who birthed you. Today's training, combat endurance. That means everything hurts, and it's supposed to. You begin with an uphill sprint, carrying a rock the size of your chest. You're not allowed to drop it, not even when your arms tremble like wet rope. You drop it anyway. Once. Your reward, do it twice. Then comes the long crawl, 50 meters under a timber frame barely tall enough for your chin. The floor is sand mixed with gravel. Just enough sharpness to draw blood from your elbows if you forget to keep them tight. One boy forgets. He cries out. The paidonomos walks over, lifts his foot, and plants it on the boy's shoulder, pressing him into the gravel like a paperweight. No words, just pressure. The boy stops crying. After that, the real training begins. You're told to run formations, again, again, again. Between each set, you're kicked, slapped, or insulted. There's no logic, no pattern. That's the point. It's to keep your nerves confused. You learn to flinch with the inside of your body only, never on the surface. That's what real Spartans do. One quirky rumor from the old scribes, Spartan men were taught to sleep lightly, not just to be alert for war, but because even rest was weakness. Some claimed elite warriors practiced sleeping while standing. There's no proof. But after today, you think you could probably manage it. By late afternoon, you're shaking. You've sweated through your cloak, then frozen again. Your hands are raw from dragging weights across stone. Your left eye is nearly swollen shut from a wooden training staff that caught you just wrong. But you're still moving, still breathing. That's what matters. Dinner is a joke, a quarter loaf of something that used to be bread. Hard enough to hurt your teeth. You eat it anyway because hunger is worse than pain. Theros tosses you a sliver of dried meat when no one's looking. You nod in thanks. He nods back, then walks away. The mess hall is quieter now. Less tension, more fatigue. Even the boys who hate you are too tired to scowl. But that's the trick. Exhaustion doesn't make things easier. It amplifies them. Tonight, someone snaps. You're halfway to your slab when you hear it, a scream cut short. Not fear, frustration. The boy with the missing toe, he's thrown his bedding against the wall. He's sobbing now. Ugly, loud, out-of-control sobs. The room freezes. Everyone turns. The paidonomos steps forward, slow and deliberate. "You done," the boy sobs harder. One of the other trainers whistles sharply. Two older boys grab him. He doesn't resist. You think maybe for a second he wants to be dragged out. The door slams shut behind them. You never see him again. No one speaks, no one asks, not even the ones who liked him. That's how quickly someone disappears in the Agagja. You lie on your slab cloak pulled over your head. You don't feel warm, but you no longer feel cold either. You've gone beyond that. Your body aches in silence. You listen to your heartbeat. Not to feel alive, just to count the seconds. You drift into something that might be sleep. And in the blank quiet of your mind, you realize something. Training never ends. Sleep never comes. Even rest here is just waiting. Waiting for pain. Waiting for orders. Waiting for the next strike. And when it comes, you won't be surprised. You'll be ready. You don't remember what softness feels like. That realization creeps up on you slowly sometime around mid-morning, when you're instructed to carry a sack of stones up the South Hill for the 4th time. The strap digs into your collarbone. Your palms are bleeding again. Your breath fogs out and bursts so short you can't tell if you're panting or just trying not to scream. But you don't scream. You don't curse. You don't ask why. You just keep walking. Because that's what Spartans do. At the top of the hill, you stop only because you're ordered to. Then you dump the sack into the pit, turn around, and go back down. No one congratulates you, not even a nod. You used to notice that kind of thing, the lack of reward. Now you don't even think about it. There's no word for comfort in your daily vocabulary anymore. Not just the objects, blankets, beds, warm water, shoes, but the idea of it. You realize you haven't felt truly warm in weeks. Not warm like fire and peace, only warm like sweat sticking your cloak to your back. Only warm like fever. This is how they raised Spartans, by erasing alternatives. You used to think of softness as something you'd get back to, someday. After training, after survival, after proving yourself. But now it feels like softness was never real to begin with. Just something the weak remember fondly. Back in the barracks, a boy slices open the heel of his foot on a loose nail. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't even limp. He just wraps it in a rag and keeps walking like the pain is another part of the floor. That's when you know you're not training to ignore pain. You're training to forget it exists. A fringe story floats around the barracks, likely myth, but no one laughs. It claims that Spartans used to bathe in freezing river water, not to cleanse but to burn off weakness. That the sensation of cold was so feared by outsiders because Spartans welcomed it, invited it in. You believe it now. Today's drill is a crawl, not just across rocks, but through them. A narrow trench dug behind the practice yard, just wide enough for one boy at a time, filled with gravel and sand and thorny weeds. You go in head first, dragging yourself on your elbows. The ceiling scrapes your back. The floor bites your knees. You can't see the end. The only sound is your own breathing, short and raw, echoing back at you in the dark. You're halfway through when your cloak snags. You stop. Just for a second. Then you keep going, leaving a strip of it behind. Because here nothing is worth slowing down. Not even what you wear. You emerge caked in dirt, bleeding from 4 new places, and blinking against the sudden brightness. A trainer grabs your arm, points at your torn cloak. You expect punishment. Instead, he says, "Good. Then next time, go faster." That's how reward works here. Not in praise, but in absence of punishment. By late afternoon, it starts to rain. The boys cheer briefly until they remember what rain means. Mud drills. You're made to strip to your tunic and kneel in the courtyard. Cold, wet mud up to your shins, then your thighs. You're told to hold your arms straight out. 30 minutes. No movement. No dropping. You watch as a younger boy trembles, then collapses forward into the muck. 2 older trainees drag him out. He won't get a second chance. No one does. As the rain slows, the air goes bitter again. Wind slices through the barracks like a blade. The cloaks, soaked and heavy, offer no insulation. But you don't ask for dry ones. You wouldn't ask even if they offered, because requests are for the soft. And here, softness is suicidal. Dinner is more barley. Burnt this time. You chew without tasting. Across the table, someone sneezes. You glance up, so do 3 others. Everyone notes it. Illness spreads fast here, and weakness spreads faster. If he sneezes tomorrow, he'll be reported. If he sneezes twice, he might vanish. You clean your bowl with a scrap of old bread. Not for flavor, for function. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted because everything here is earned. A historical note creeps into your mind, one you remember from your earliest lectures. Spartan children were taught to fear nothing except pleasure. Pleasure dulled the senses. Pleasure bred hesitation. Pleasure killed warriors. You lie on your slab that night, still damp from drills, feet still raw from stone, mouth still tasting smoke. You don't shift. You don't sigh. You don't dream. Because dreaming, that would be a luxury. And in Sparta, there is no word for that. You don't win medals here. You win silence. You win the absence of correction, the lack of bruises, the nodless approval of a trainer walking past without hitting you. That's the prize. Today you earn none of it. It starts with a whip, not a warning, not a punishment, a lesson. You're told to kneel in the center of the courtyard, back straight, arms folded. A crowd gathers, trainees of all ranks, some younger, some barely older than you. The circle forms like ritual. The Paidonomos holds the lash in one hand. Thick leather, dried, frayed. Stand. You do. Remove your cloak. You do. The wind bites your bare shoulders. Your spine feels like it's on display. Then he speaks not to you but to the circle. This one failed to hold form during spear run. His left arm dropped. Twice. You hadn't realized it. No one had corrected you, but someone saw. And that's enough. He steps behind you. You hear the leather flex. You brace. Crack. The sound arrives before the pain. Then the fire comes white and wide across your back, like someone poured sun into your skin. You don't move. Crack. A second stripe. Your knees lock. You stare straight ahead. A third. The world narrows. Not in darkness, but in clarity. You can hear the boys breathing behind you. One sniffles. Another clicks his tongue. Theros is somewhere to the left. Silent. Crack. Your muscles twitch. But you don't fall. You don't speak. You don't cry. The trainer pauses, then steps in front of you. You're learning. He hands the whip to the boy beside him, 12 years old. Nervous, he walks up behind you and hesitates. Again, the Paidonomos says. The whip sings. Your back sings louder. This isn't punishment anymore. This is training. Historically, whipping was part of the annual ritual at Artemis Orthia's sanctuary, a sacred event, a spectacle. Boys were lashed in front of crowds, not for wrongdoing, but for resilience. They competed to see who could take more without collapsing. Some died. No one stopped the ceremony. You're not at a temple, but it feels just as holy. The last lash lands just beneath your shoulder blade. It catches bone. Your vision flares white. You don't fall. That's the win. Afterward, they smear your back with oil and ash. Not for healing, for toughening. The ash sticks. The wounds don't bleed much. Too clean. That night, you're told to report to the senior mess. Not for food, for display. You kneel by the fire pit while older boys eat. Some point at your back, some nod. One pours a little broth into the dirt at your side. You ignore it. The real reward comes later. Not food, not sleep, but status. The next morning during gear inspection, your cloak is returned to you, not damp, not torn, but clean. Almost new. That means someone in the upper ring saw the lashes. Approved. You wear it without a word. But you feel taller. The other boys glance sideways as you pass. One even steps aside to let you through the doorway first. You say nothing, but you notice everything. You're told to oversee the weapon cleaning line. You don't ask why. You just start assigning. They obey, no argument. Even the ones older than you follow your voice now. Because here the whip teaches more than obedience. It teaches presence. At midday, the sun bakes your back through the cloak. It stings. You smile, not because you enjoy it, but because you understand it. Pain has become your language. When you strike the wooden dummy during drills, your rhythm is different, sharper, crisper. You strike with pain, now not around it. You think of that as the final stage. It's not. There's one more. The part where pain stops being a trial and becomes a tool. You're not there yet, but you're close. At night, the youngest boys ask questions under their breath. Did it hurt? You don't answer. Another asks, how many lashes? You pretend not to hear, but inside you count them again. 5 from the paidonomos, 1 from the child, 6 total. 6 lines on your back, 6 doors that opened. You sleep on your side, the wounds still raw. And as your body sinks into the slab, you realize something no one tells you. When the whip cracks, you don't just survive it, you start to thank it. You hear the enemy long before you see them. Not the clang of bronze, not the thunder of hooves, just breathing, labored, wrong. You're standing in formation on the outer field cloak wrapped tight against the wind. The sun is high but cold, hard light, winter light. Your hands are steady on your spear. Your shield arm aches from yesterday's repetition drills. It's a mock invasion. The trainers call it Xenopolemos, the foreign war. They've dressed the opposing group in helmets you've never seen before, decorated with red feathers and serpent patterns. They march stiffly out of rhythm. They yell in high, shrill tones, fake dialects echoing across the dry grass. It's a performance, an exercise in fear, but it still sets your jaw tight. Because no matter how much you know, it's pretend your body believes it. And your body doesn't want to be the one who flinches first. The trainers shout, form phalanx. You drop into line without thinking. Your foot finds its groove in the dust. Your arm locks with the boy next to you. The shields rise in a wall, one polished curve after another, like the scales of some creature too ancient to die. And then they charge. Screams erupt. Not yours. The enemy's. The feather-helmed boys rush the line like lunatics. One crashes straight into your section. His spear tip grazes your shield. Another flanks wide, too wide. He's off balance. You break ranks deliberately and strike him in the ribs. He folds with a sharp wheeze. Your trainer barks back. You snap into position again. The enemy keeps coming. One of your line falls. Another panics and stumbles backward. The paidonomos doesn't step in. This is the test. You hold your ground. The enemy presses again. You jab with your spear. The point lands hard. A cry. Someone goes down. It's not real, but it feels real. Because for the first time, you're not just fighting the boys you trained with. You're facing strangers, or what your mind thinks are strangers. And in that space between fear and action, you realize the truth. Enemies don't scare you. Spartans do. The boys behind you, the ones who've watched you sleep, eat, bleed, win, fail, crawl, kill, they're the ones who terrify you. Because they've seen everything. There's nothing you can hide from them. Nothing you can fake. You know if you hesitate, one of them will see it. And maybe next time they'll put you in the enemy group. And then you're meat. The line pushes forward. You drive into the charge. Your spear catches a shield. It rebounds. Someone elbows your jaw. You taste blood. But your body stays where it's supposed to. When the whistle blows, it's sudden. Everything stops. The enemy retreats. The field is a mess of dropped gear, bruised boys, and one shattered spear shaft. You breathe hard. but not ragged. You're tired, not drained. That's the difference now. One of the fallen boys groans as he's dragged away. A trainer mutters, "Reassign him." That means weeks of low work, carrying water, sharpening practice blades, maybe kitchen scraps if he's lucky. Punishment, not exactly. Just demotion. You watch him go without pity. That's not cruelty. That's protocol. After drills, you're called to clean up the edges of the field. While carrying broken shields to the armory, one of the boys from the enemy group sneers at you. You think you're better than us. You glance at him. You don't answer. You don't have to. That's what makes him angry. He shoves your shoulder, not hard, just enough to test. Tharos appears behind him like a shadow. "Do it again," he says softly, and he'll be told to respond. The boy backs off. You return to stacking shields, and that's when it sinks in. You're feared. Not because you're violent, but because you've stopped being afraid of violence. Even when it's aimed at you, especially then. At mess, the boys speak even less than usual. The group that played the enemy is quietest. They know they were weaker. They know everyone saw it. And Sparta never forgets that. Later, when the courtyard empties and drills end, a group of trainees walks past you. Their eyes drop, all except one. He stares a moment too long. You stare back, and he looks away. Good. The night is colder now. The barracks smell like old sweat and wet wool. You wrap your cloak tighter and lie on your slab. Sleep comes fast. No dreams, just strategy. Because you're no longer imagining enemies at the gates. You're imagining Spartans behind you waiting to take your place if you slip. And somehow that scares you more than any sword ever could. At some point, pain stops being punishment. It becomes rhythm. You know the cadence of bruises now. You feel it when you wake stiff ribs, tight shoulders, that dull ache behind your knees from 1,000 stone squats. You know which pain you can stretch out and which to ignore completely. You know how to breathe through it, move with it, use it. Today you realize you're not afraid of it anymore. Today you realize you kind of like it. Drills begin before dawn, with fortification run a 10-mile dash through thorny scrub while carrying your shield above your head. One drop and you restart. Not just your group, everyone. Collective punishment sharpens communal hate. If you fall behind, you're not just weak, you're hated. And yet something strange happens this morning. You find the pace. You feel your calves burn in perfect timing with your breath. The wind against your face doesn't sting. It feeds you. The weight of the shield no longer crushes it, centers you. You run faster, lighter. And when the boy ahead of you stumbles, you don't trip. You leap over him like a deer. You land without breaking stride. Tharos sees it. And though he says nothing when the run ends and your chest is heaving steam into the dawn light, he walks past you and mutters, "Now you're starting to get it. That's all. That's enough." Because he's right. You are getting it. And that terrifies you. Because the part of your mind that used to flinch at pain gone, the part that used to whisper, "What if we die now?" whispers. So midday drills involve pain stacking. You start by holding your spear straight out for as long as possible. Then you balance a full helmet on your head and march in a circle. Then you climb a stone wall barefoot. Then you crawl under it backward. Then you're told to do it again, but faster. You don't ask why. You just move. When you finish, your palms are shredded. Your toes are bleeding. But you feel clear, like the pain has scraped away every loose part of you. There's only form now, bone and function. There's a rumor one of the older boys told you weeks ago that some Spartans got so used to pain, they began seeking it out. They'd train until something broke, then keep training. Burn the softness out, he said, until the body's just a tool. You laughed then. You're not laughing now, because now you feel it, and it feels good. Afternoon sparring is different today. No partners, just a line of boys waiting to fight you one after another. Each new opponent brings fresh fists, heavier blows, sharper moves, but you don't slow. You don't block everything, but you take the hits well. You roll with them. And when the last boy charges at you swinging too wide, you sidestep and drop him with a knee to the gut. The trainer calls it. You win, but you don't smile, because you're not proud. You're hungry. You want another round. Theros shakes his head. That's enough. But it's not. Not for you. Because now the pain isn't just proof. It's addiction. A quiet one. A clean one. The mess hall that night is somber. You eat faster than usual. Not because you're in a rush, but because you're not interested. Food is fuel. Sleep is reset. Everything is utilitarian. One of the younger boys scrapes his spoon too loud. The trainer tosses a rock at his head. Not large, just enough to send a message. He flinches. You don't. You watch the rock bounce. You listen to the boy cry later under his blanket, trying to smother the sound. You used to feel something when that happened. Now you study the pitch of the cry. How long it lasts, whether it fades or hardens, you learn from it. Because every noise here means something, just like every pain. There's a joke one of the older boys once whispered during night drill. He said, "You know you're truly Spartan when you wake up disappointed, you're not already hurting." Everyone laughed, except the boys who already felt that way. You didn't laugh either. You were quiet then. Now you understand, because the bruises are how you know you exist. You lie on your slab that night, stretching your arms behind your head. Every part of you is sore, but not in that raw, unbearable way. It's clean, measured, earned, like a song with no melody but perfect tempo. And when you fall asleep, your final thought is this: you don't fear pain. You've made a home in it. And that's how they've won. You forget your birthday. You don't realize it until late in the day, while you're sharpening your spearhead under a cold sky, hands black with stone dust and iron filings. Someone nearby mentions the festival of Artemis is coming soon, and a few boys start calculating what that means for the training schedule. Then it hits you. You used to have a birthday this month. Used to. Now you can't remember the day. You know you were born in winter, your mother told you once, wrapped in a blanket by the hearth. But the number's gone. Just slipped away. And you don't feel anything about it. No sadness, no ache. Just the faint observation, I used to be someone who knew that. Now you're not. Sparta doesn't recognize birthdays. You're property, not a person. Birthdays are for individuals. You're part of the machine now. Another boy nearby mutters something under his breath, probably his own date dredged from the depths of memory. A trainer hears. He's whipped 5 minutes later. Not for remembering, for saying it out loud. Because personal identity, that's a crack in the armor. Sparta doesn't tolerate cracks, and that's not metaphor. Spartan youth were taught that emotion, memory, even individual desire was a liability in battle. The perfect soldier wasn't brave. He was empty, filled only with duty. You spend the afternoon in silence, drill again. Walking perimeter barefoot, no sound, no cloak, just a knife in your ears. You step over thorns without flinching. Your feet are calloused now, thick as bark. You no longer wince when the rocks dig in, because pain is familiar. But remembering who you used to be, that's dangerous. You try to recall your parents' faces later. You get fragments, a nose, a laugh, but not enough to rebuild them. They fade faster each night. You remember the whip. You remember the blade you held in the cryptia. You remember Tharos's voice telling you to dig deeper, but your family, your favorite food, your first dream gone. You've been hollowed out, and you know it. And what scares you is not that it happened. It's how peaceful that emptiness feels. You're 17 now. Almost at the end of the agoge. You've endured everything: cold beatings, starvation, humiliation, endless drills. You've been whipped and tested and sent into the night to kill strangers. You've passed. And in return, Sparta has taken your name. You're just boy here, one of many. No special title. And the terrifying thing is, you don't miss it. Tonight, during formation, one of the boys ahead of you stumbles. It's minor. A single foot placement out of line. You correct him without thinking. A hand on the shoulder. A whisper. He nods. Falls in step. The Paidonomos doesn't even blink. You're not punished for speaking. Because now your voice matters. That's how you know. You've crossed over. You're not being shaped anymore. You're reinforcing. A tool that sharpens other tools. You sleep light that night. Not restlessly, just intentionally. 1 hour at a time. You rise before dawn. No orders, no bell. You just know. Theros meets you by the outer gate. No words. He hands you a new cloak. Not brown, not black, deep crimson. You feel its weight across your shoulders, thicker, finer wool. Not for warmth, for signaling. Crimson is for near graduates, for almost Spartans. You say nothing, but your spine straightens. The others notice. A younger boy stares as you pass. You don't meet his gaze, because there's no comfort in this change. No ceremony, just confirmation. You've forgotten your name. You've forgotten your family. You've forgotten every softness that ever touched you. And all that's left is the rhythm of Sparta in your chest. That endless beat of drills whips silence and control. You're not a boy anymore. You're not even you. You're Sparta. And Sparta doesn't care. The day begins without a command. No shouted orders, no whistle, no clatter of wooden weapons on stone. Just the wind moving through the hills and the sound of distant sandals in dust. And yet you rise, cloak on, feet wrapped, weapon in hand. You don't need to be told anymore. Your instincts have become your instructors. You've stopped measuring time in days. Time now moves in repetitions. How many drills you've done, how many lashes you've taken, how many steps it takes to circle the training yard twice without blinking. You no longer think in meals, only in calories earned. Today you're told to report to the Ageleos, the elder responsible for final evaluations. Not a trainer, not an officer, a judge. You've seen him before once or twice, always from a distance. Bent with age, but eyes sharp like fishhooks. A cloak darker than yours. A cane that never touches the ground even though he walks with a limp. You stand before him. He says nothing for a long time. Then he walks in a slow circle around you. You feel like meat at market. At last he speaks. You've lasted. It isn't praise, it's a statement. Many don't. He holds out a hand. You offer your spear, he inspects it. Not for craftsmanship, for wear, for use. He turns it once, nods slightly, and gives it back. Then tomorrow you join the Ephebes. A pause. Then you will no longer be watched. And that's when it hits you. Not pride, not relief, dread. Because for the first time in your life, no one will tell you when to wake up. No one will check your cloak or correct your stance or count your steps. Freedom. No responsibility. You don't ask questions, you just bow. That night you return to the barracks and pack your things. All of them fit into a single cloth wrap. The knife, the crimson cloak, a scrap of leather with a symbol carved into it, your mark, not a name. No letters, no tokens, nothing sentimental. Just what you need. Tharos finds you near the fire pit. He sits beside you. No words at first. Then it gets worse. You nod. He smiles faintly. Good. The others sleep. You stay awake. Not because of fear, because you're listening to the walls, the stones, the wind slipping through the cracks. You'll never sleep here again. Tomorrow you leave the barracks behind. No fanfare, no farewell. You'll rise and go, and the bed will be filled by another, or left empty. You lie down one last time. The slab is cold, but it's yours. You close your eyes. You remember nothing, not your parents, not your favorite food, not the sound of your own laugh. You remember drills, mud, blood, orders, rhythm, discipline, and survival. And in that silence with the cloak pulled to your chin and the wind hissing past the stones, you think, this is all I am now. And maybe it's enough. And now you can breathe again. Let the cold air soften around you like the sting after a wound fades, not gone, just dulled. You've been through so much tonight. Every step, every bruise, every bone-deep silence that passed between boys turned blades. You've watched yourself vanish in slow increments until only the rhythms of Sparta remained. But that's okay now, because your body remembers, even if you've forgotten your name. Let the training yard slip away its stones, softening into shadow. Let the sound of the whip dissolve into distant wind. Let the pain settle somewhere deep, quiet, now folded, no longer burning. The red cloak is warm around your shoulders. You're not standing anymore. You're resting. No drills, no eyes watching. No need to earn your sleep tonight. You already did. And whether you passed or just endured, maybe that's enough. Let the barracks fade. Let the silence become stillness. Your heartbeat slows. Even the ghosts of bruises begin to fade. There is nothing left to prove here. No more spears, no more shouts. Just breath and sleep. And you, whoever that is now. So close your eyes. Sink deeper into that cool stone. And rest, Spartan. You've earned it. End of script. Sweet dreams.